right here. Let's go take a look. Welcome back to the channel. We are finishing up the 1970 Ford Torino, and we're on our last item on the customer's to-do list. Well, the last item and a half. We do have to change the oil, but that's pretty simple stuff. But he claims, and I had no reason not to believe the dude, that the 4 barrels are not activating. Now, we've run this car a little bit. We haven't had it down the highway yet, but overall, and he said I really don't want the carburetor rebuilt because it runs perfectly, other than, he says, the 4 barrels don't seem to be opening. And you know, now this gentleman's had this car since high school, so it's been around the block, and it doesn't get, you know, the right foot action that it may be used to. So he thinks they're a little gummy, maybe hanging up or something. We're going to look into that. I've got a couple things we're going to try right off the bat, but I'm telling you, otherwise, I agree with him. We're going to try not to crack this carburetor off. It's a Motorcraft 4300, because all the other circuits, all the other drivabilities and functionabilities are just working wonderfully. So let's pull this air cleaner off. We're going to start the car, let it get warmed up, and then we're going to do a little chemical cleaning, so to speak. Now, believe it or not, even though we had some muscle cars going on in the 70s, we were getting some emission stuff too. So there is some vacuum. So there are some vacuum lines and such that are starting to appear even on this car. We've got one back here, comes off of here and goes down to source vacuum there. And then we've got simple things, you know, like the crankcase breather filter hose that doesn't want to come off. Come on, there. Now that hog can come out of there. I know most you dudes and dudettes already know this, but when you do pull the line off somewhere from vacuum, make sure you cap that sucker before you go, you know, trying to test and tune, because you got a vacuum leak you made yourself. All right, let's see. It's been maybe 2 days since she's around, and I'm just gonna tell you, it starts and runs great. Oh, by the way, we are in the heartland, and we got to open the shop door for this because we're gonna let this run for a little bit and warm up, and it's windy. Now it could be worse, because luckily we have the winds out of the south, which is that way, and we have all that stuff to help block the wind so it doesn't just fly right at us. Yeah, that's sarcasm. But anywho's, we're gonna start this up. It's not too bad, but you will get a little wind noise as we work through this. We're gonna go 1 pump, and she's gonna fire right up. There we go. Let it run on high idle smoke is coming off nicely. And we should be able to tickle this throttle just a little bit and have it come right down to idle here. Pretty much up to temp here. Now we should be able to at least look at these 4 barrels and see them try to open in a static setting, which means I'm going to get under there and blip the throttle. If they get full throttle, you should see them start to open. Now they won't fully open without a load on the car and staying in it for a little while, but at least we can tell in this situation that they want to work, or at least are partially, you know, in the mood to open up. I'll show you what I mean here. Watch right here. Came right open. Well, maybe you shouldn't let the car idle and then just get after it. So we loaded up just a little bit. That was my fault. That's pretty exciting little, you know, fireball. It was right up in your grill. That should be interesting to watch. But that's my bad. We didn't hurt nothing, and we know the 4 barrels are open. And so, yeah, if you let your car, your old hot rod, idle for, you know, 10-15 minutes and then get right after it, there is a chance that, you know, you'll have a little residual fuel in the intake, and it'll want to come back and bark through the carburetor. That's what that was. It came right up through them 4 barrels. Anywho, we know they're activating. You saw that. We are going to go ahead and let this cool down just a little bit. We're going to dump the oil, go ahead and service it, and then we've got some Berryman's in a squirt bottle, and we're going to put another can of Berryman's in the fuel tank, and we'll hit it with a little carb cleaner just to kind of tidy things up here and make sure that we don't have any varnish or dirt or anything that holding back those 4 barrels. All right, oil has been changed on, and so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a little, just your average carb cleaner, and we're going to clean off the exterior of this carburetor a little bit, just to kind of, you know, get some of the stickiness off. Nothing horrible. Dress it up just a little bit, and we'll come in here with a little bit of air and evaporate that out. And already we're looking better from the outside. Now we'll start her up, and we're going to give her a little bit of RPMs, and we'll spray a little bit down into the venturis around the edge of the air horn here, and get some of that varnish knocked off and get some of that cleaner down through the carburetor. gonna dribble some Berrymans down here and do a little more cleaning. It's not only helping the carb, but this is help getting some of the varnish off of the back sides of the valves and that kind of stuff. Running nice and smooth. We do have just a little bit of seep here. We're going to give those screws another little bit more. Things are warmed up a little bit. You can tighten down on this just a little bit more. We're going to watch that for just a little bit, see if it gets any better. Okay, just got off the phone with our customer and he says, yeah, I'd rather it didn't leak any fuel. And I agree with that 100%. Now, we've also got, I mean, it's weeping all along the front edge of this gasket. And this is your fuel bowl underneath here. We'll see it when we pull this off because he does want us to try and get that resolved today. So, here's the deal with this gasket. It's not really meant to hold back like if fuel was, this was filled up to here with fuel. That's not what this gasket is for. This gasket is to keep the top of the carburetor and the bottom of the carburetor sealed together. And as fuel splashes around in this bowl, it's supposed to keep it from leaking to the outside. But just with this car sitting here idling, there should not be fuel up to that gasket. When the engine isn't moving and fuel's not sloshing around, there shouldn't be liquid to this level in the first place where it can wick out. So we're going to pop this top cover off. It shouldn't be too bad. We should be able to keep a lot of things intact as far as linkages and stuff. And then we're going to try just to manipulate that float level down a little bit. And then we also have some special RTV gasket maker stuff that is fuel resistant. And we're going to come up here and just lightly, I mean lightly, put a little bit along the top and the bottom of this gasket, just around this bowl area here. Is that the perfect way to do it? No, I'm not going to have it so it squishes out all over the place, and that's not going to happen. But the alternative to that is to find an entire carb kit for this thing, wait, and tear it all down, at least tear the top off and put a new gasket on when, you know, float level may not be correct in the first place. So I think dropping the float level down just a tickle and sealant, putting a little sealant on this gasket will get us happy. What do we got here? Oh, we got a slotty. I'm not the only one that loses screws. There we go. Alright, we got the carburetor tray out. We're over on the bench, and I don't know, let me move this slide out of the way, if you guys can pick it up or not. But we're going to try to look straight down the barrel at this. See our difference. This float, now we're inverted here, so this float is lower. It's sticking up more than this side. So we don't have the right level on each side. Now there's a contraption that you're supposed to make, and you're supposed to bolt on here and set it when you go in with a rebuild. Now, but we gotta be really close, so we're not going to do all that. We are going to take our guide though, and we'll look here. We're at about 10/16, 20-30 seconds on this side. On this side we're only about 18-30 seconds, or 9/16. So we're kind of significantly lower over here, or higher over here. We're inverted. So what we're going to do, and you got to be really careful with these, whenever you're working with a float, don't ever touch the float body, the pontoon they call it, itself. And especially on these, because these are molded into this what do they call it, this composite, I can't think of the name for it. But if you go twisting here, this will crack right through here, and then you're buying a new float. What we need to do is we need to take one tiny piece of pliers and go here, and another tiny piece of pliers and go here, and bend it here to make that adjustment. So we're going to bring this side up, which in reality is down because we're upside down on the bench here. Alright, we've made our adjustment, so now we are right at 20 on the 30-second scale and 10 on the 16th. So it's the same both sides. We just don't have the same scale on each side of our holly stick. So because it runs so good, we're just going to make that very small adjustment. So remember, we're inverted, so fuel is filling up this way. By lowering the floats, we cause the floats themselves to push up quicker, which shuts off fuel here at the needle and seat. Alright, I think that'll get us a little bit lower fuel level overall. We don't want to mess with it too much. Now we're going to smear just a little bit of schmoo along this leading edge. It looks okay, but we're going to do that anyway. We got just a little bit of gasket there. We'll do that. We're going to plop this back down on there, and it should eliminate our fuel leakage issue. This gasket stuff, let me show you what we're working with here. It's a Permatex, claims to be silicone, I believe, but it's a little different. It's this Moto Seal gasket maker. It's fuel resistant. Now this doesn't have the usual, you know, the silicone, put it on, tighten it till it oozes a little bit, and then wait an hour, and then torque it, and then wait 24 hours before you put it in service. This stuff, you allow it to set for 1 minute, you assemble it, torque everything down to where it's supposed to be, and let it rip. So it's a little different. It's not as rubbery, and it's I don't know, I mean, a little more permanent feeling. But anyway, that's what we're doing. Moto Seal gasket maker, fuel resistant, 29132. I've used it a handful of times. Usually it's the silicones, but this has a better chance of working in this application. Now on the carburetor, you can barely see a little bit of it, you know, just twinging out, and that's what we want. We don't want stuff gooping out all over the place. But we're back together. I did not video because the timeline associated with that sealant says get it together. So we got the top back on, got everything hooked back up. We're ready to rock. We should be able to just reach in and crank on this bad ride, and there's, as much as it evaporated because it's kind of warm today, there should be enough in here that she'll fire right off. some staining from the previous leak, but we got nothing new at all. No fuel leaks, running great, idling great. We are now, hey, now ladies and dudes, it's road test time. We are cruising down the road. It's a great driving car. Brakes it's got great brakes, but not too much back brake anymore, so that's a great thing. Now I can't really hear the 4 barrels. I do think I feel them, but that's gonna have to be the customer's call on that one. But she goes right on down the highway with no trouble at all. We'll get on a little side road here in Mexico and see if we can't figure out those 4 barrels, whether they're coming on or not. Alright, we're somewhere in Mexico here. We're gonna get turned around. We got a long drive to get back to the heartland. And see from a near standstill here what we got going on, 4 barrel wise anyway. We got a good scratch in second gear there. I think we're in pretty good shape. Well, hey, thanks for joining along on this one. This was a really nice car. It still has a couple things, a couple leaks. With a little bit of luck, you'll see some more videos. I think we'll get our hands on this car again and we'll start checking off some of those other items that it needs. But really nothing major at all, just a couple little leaks here and there. And then if he's not happy, if he still thinks he's not getting 4 barrel action, then we'll have to readdress that. I think we're getting it. It's just hard to hear. This car seals up really good, and it's really hard to hear without the windows down, and it's windy out and all that other good stuff. But she pulls really well. We left a little black mark first to second back there, so should be good to go. Appreciate each and every one of you for watching. If you got comments, suggestions, anything else you want to say, tap the keyboard, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to see you on the next video.